Pentagon Pete is losing the faith. A few of them, actually.
And Social Security's days may be numbered. That and a lot more today on The Undercurrent.
Hello.
Hello. What's going on, everybody? Let me turn this on so we can see people here. We got Chuck's in the house and CBC voters here too. Yeah, 5 subs away from 100. We're at 95 on the old YouTube Undercurrent channel. 5 more and we get that sandwich. Can't wait. We do get a free sandwich, don't we? In that, like the punch cards?
I thought there was no such thing as a free lunch, Uncle Warren.
I don't know. Depends on what kind of sandwich it is. You may think it's lunch, or you may think it's, I do not want that, because they have those kind of sandwiches too. Good morning, everybody. What's going on? It is Wednesday. Just a quick news update. Seems like the devil himself is going to make it to November, as Lindsey Graham won the Republican primary in South Carolina last night. So he'll be moving on, facing who knows, and at this point, who really cares? I mean, I don't think that person's going to stop them. South Carolina has its own flavor, and I'm not talking about just barbecue. You know what I'm saying? South Carolina is a weird place.
It can be. You know, I was what was it? The Demon of Unrest, the book about the start of the Civil War. And one of the things that Eric Larson talks about in there is the role that South Carolina played, and that it was considered to be actually a very primitive state at that point. They were considered to be very backward, and their chief source of entertainment in the evening was to do the promenade, which is where people would come out in their finery and just walk around the town squares. So South Carolina is South Carolina.
Yeah. They put mustard in their barbecue sauce. I'm a little put off by that, but
I like it. You've never tried? I do like it.
No, I have tried it. That's why I don't like it.
Oh well, okay. I really like mustard.
I come from around the Memphis area where there's actual like real barbecue, where they don't screw around with, like, you know, tabletop condiments. You know, they don't sit there putting some mustard in there, like they're Carl from Sling Blade. I love me some mustard with my barbecue.
I'm from Chicago, and we put only mustard on the hot dogs, so I can understand mustard barbecue.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, nice try, but well, actually not nice try, but I mean, if people like it, that's fine, but it's just they really should have thought that through. We got Naybones and Ghost Art over on the Rumbly Tumblies. What's up? Wesley sneaking in here too. Good to see all of y'alls. We are live on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. We've been doing our like I said, we got 95 subscribers, and we've been putting out clips, and people have been responding to them pretty well. We
got into trouble though for one of those clips.
Yeah, but it was because of the title.
There was a naughty word, Uncle Warren.
Yeah, well, it was a quote. So, but it was still a naughty word, and the censor's like, we don't know this is a quote.
So we're going to age restrict your channel.
Yeah, but I changed the title and I appealed, and it's like no big deal. So they, like I said, they tried, but nice try, but not nice try. We got news to get to today. Pretty good bit of news. One of the things, like I said, hey, guess what? Social Security, it may go bye-bye for people like us. 6 years, it says here. And, you know, I'll be 63 in 6 years. So
will I.
There we go. My magic ain't working. Yeah, so it's like screw you, Gen X, and your Social Security. So U.S. Social Security Trust Fund set for 2032 insolvency report finds but 1.5 trillion for the military, just so you know. They're going to do that. The U.S. Social Security Trust Fund, relied on by millions of American retirees, will run out of money in late 2032, earlier than previously forecast, in part because of Trump's signature tax law enacted last year. The government said yesterday. A Social Security Administration annual report projected the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund that finances retirement benefits will become depleted and no longer be able to pay 100% of scheduled benefits in the fourth quarter of 2032, up from the first quarter of 2033 projected in the 2025 annual report. At that time, the fund's projected income will be sufficient to pay just 78% of scheduled benefits, indicating beneficiaries will see a 22% cut in monthly Social Security retirement income. Reserves for the related disability insurance trust fund for those receiving long-term disability payments should remain positive for the next 75 years, unchanged from last year's findings. Well, at least that's not fucked over. The two funds combined, however, will reach insolvency in the third quarter of 2034, also unchanged from a year ago. At that time, the combined fund will have income sufficient to pay just 83% of scheduled benefits, a percentage that declines to 65% by 2100. Good God, I hope I'm not around by that. Mm-hmm. That's a long way off.
Way too long.
Yeah, unless we're smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, and that's what's keeping us alive, like some of these old cats out there. The report found that the tax cuts enacted by Trump and the Republican Congress last year resulted in less income tax paid on Social Security benefits. Shocking, depleting key income streams to the two funds. The report also concluded that lower U.S. birth rates and lower net immigration also contributed to the change in the outlook. The Social Security Administration is currently run by Commissioner Frank J. Bisignano, DiGiorno, whatever his name is, who was confirmed by the U.S. Senate in May last year. So, looks like, like I said, in 6 years, I'll be 63. And then probably by the time I actually hit 65, it'll be $250 and a bucket of chicken each month. For payment on Social Security. What do you think they're leaning?
Yeah, I mean, they've been waggling their finger about this for a long time, and it really also segues very neatly into this administration's panic about declining birth rates. There's been a lot of people. I mean, I've actually, this is so strange. People have been complaining that teenage girls are not having enough babies. We went for decades, people panicking about teenage pregnancy and teenage birth rates, and now they're decrying that fewer teens are having babies. So I have my suspicions about this. Now, they are admitting that in this post, they do admit that lower immigration rates can also be contributing to the problem here. But I'm going to point out that the whole declining birth rate thing has really become a panic at this point. And the incels are absolutely in on it. They love that. The idea that we should be forcing women to have kids, regardless of whether they are interested in Congress with any male that's around. But I think that there may be something here to that. And Chuck has been pointing this out. That this really should not be happening. We should not see the collapse of Social Security. And it also speaks to me of, this is, if they decide to lower the payments, that's going to be a very serious problem. It's going to cause a problem for the economy, particularly as you have older people who may not have a whole lot of resources. You have people who I think have given up on the idea of retirement. I expect to work until the day I keel over. Like most of us, many of us do, not all, but many of us do. And but this can be a real problem when you have elderly people who might be disabled, who have age-related conditions and who may not be able to participate in the workforce, and they are probably not going to be able to re-enter it, unlike somebody who may have a temporary disability when they're younger. So if this is what's going to happen, we're going to be looking at an increasingly impoverished group of people that are going to make up a big chunk of the population. This country is in for a world of hurt until somebody figures out what they're going to do about it.
Willie says here, I predict that they will get rid of Social Security for those under 40 years, while those between 40 and 61 will get reduced payments, and Gen X will get the same amount, which is bupkis. $2.50 and a bucket of chicken. Yeah, and that, well, yeah, it shouldn't go insolvent, but we've seen the screwing around in the government, so it's not surprising if it actually does happen. And on top of that, of course, some of these cats in the government who have pensions, who will have pensions and have free government health care, are talking about raising the retirement age to like 70. But like you said, we're basically going to be working until we die anyway. So, it's like, all right, make it 300, because that's about, it might as well be. And then even then, when we get it, it's going to be depleted. Speaking of depleted, we got all that Earl here in the United States, but oil, like my love for foods cooked in a microwave, it doesn't last long. And I don't know why I said that transition. Trump outpaces Biden, depletes oil reserves to lowest levels in years. He's like, well, if you can't get oil over there, you could come get our oil. Well, you probably should. You should probably shut up there. Your catcher's mitt looking face. The United States Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR, resumes its rapid decline, edging closer to a 4-decade low after another significant weekly withdrawal. According to data released by the Energy Department on Monday, the reserve fell by 7.9 million barrels last week, following a similar release of around 8 million barrels the previous week. The latest figures bring total SPR holdings down to 349.2 million barrels, the lowest level recorded since August 2023. At the current pace of drawdowns, the reserve is expected to fall below 346.8 million barrels this week, a threshold last reached in July 2023 during the Biden administration. See, that's how you can tell all our presidents are the same. They keep draining the oil. If the current trend continues, the SPR could soon fall below levels not seen since the early 1980s, when U.S. energy consumption patterns and overall demand were significantly lower than today. That's right. U.S. officials have continued to tap the emergency crude stockpile as part of efforts to mitigate economic and energy market disruptions linked to the ongoing war in Iran. Since late February, the SPR has declined by approximately 66 million barrels, reflecting the continued, just compressing words there, continued reliance on strategic reserves to cushion energy shocks, particularly as Washington's blockade and violations in the Strait of Hormuz affect major shipping routes and production expectations. The depletion of the SPR has also reignited political debate in Washington over the use of emergency oil reserves. During his 2022 presidential campaign, Trump criticized then President Joe Biden for drawing down the SPR ahead of the midterm elections, accusing the administration of overuse. Wait a minute, isn't that what Trump's doing? However, current policy has seen continued withdrawals at an even faster pace. I'd say that was the thing. He wasn't withdrawing it fast enough. Deepening concerns over a growing strain on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as U.S. authorities scramble to stabilize markets and contain the fallout from persistent geopolitical tensions. So, what do we see here? Probably them tapping into more national parks that have oil reserves under there. They've been doing that.
Could be, and I'm getting really concerned for people who are dealing with these rising fuel prices. I was listening to NPR yesterday, and they had one gentleman on there, and he's spending, he said it was $150 a week on his commute to work.
Hmm.
And he's actually taking on side jobs, just to be able to pay the bills. He said he could possibly, he has where he works, he has siblings there. He could probably spend a few nights a week there, but he's got a spouse and children at home, and that's not good for their marriage or their family life. I was hearing from another woman who was simply unable to get to work, and she's afraid she's going to lose her job because she doesn't have the gas to get there, and she apparently does not have the money for ride share, and there isn't a public transit for her. So this is about to get very serious. It's not just not being able to afford gas or having to cut into your budget. It is, if you don't have a way to get to work, people lose their jobs.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
they've got a real problem on their hands.
Yeah, and it's some places these, you'd say, oh, why don't you just ride a bike to work? Well, some of these places are too far to commute.
And
That's
what if
why
it's
they're
raining?
driving.
What if there's a hailstorm? It's not always,
Right. Yeah.
I'm all about riding bicycles or whatever it is that you need to do, but there are conditions in which it is safe to drive a car or be in a car, but it is not safe to be on a bicycle or to walk.
Yeah. Unless you're really good at dodging things,
Yeah.
hailstorms is not good for that either.
Or showing up looking like a drowned rat.
Well, that too, or catching pneumonia. But I was seeing the other day the average price of diesel is around 500. It might as well be 525 to 550 550 per gallon. And that's going to affect truckers. And if some of these truckers are not going to be able to afford the fuel too, then that means deliveries and stuff get stopped or delayed. Yeah, it is what
people can't be getting frostbite. And if this is just not practical.
Yeah. It's going to get pretty sticky. It's already pretty sticky right now, but it's going to get worse. Unless somebody does something to stop it or change things, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. Priorities though, we got to make sure we get our nuclear weapons, Lainey.
Well, they're very important.
We need our nukes. It's part of this complete breakfast.
Everybody needs a little nookie now and then.
Nuki. That's not what that means.
No.
Stop it. I'm telling you, if you have nuki with that, you have a half-life of about 50,000 years.
Well, I want to see that ballistic missile.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Fire in the hole.
Yeah.
Nuclear weapon spending surges to record high of $119 billion. $1 billion. Global spend. This is around the world. This isn't just us. This is everybody. Global spending on nuclear weapons last year rose to an all-time high of $119 billion, according to a report by non-proliferation advocates. The world's 9 nuclear-armed countries spend an additional $16.8 billion on their arsenals, or spent in 2025 compared with the previous year. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN, said in its latest report released yesterday, the U.S. spent an estimated $69.2 billion, a rise of $12.6 billion, and more than other nuclear powers combined. ICAN said China was the second biggest spender with an estimated $13.5 billion, followed by the UK with $12.6, Russia with $9.5, France with $7.7, according to ICAN. India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea spent sums ranging from $656 million in Pyongyang in North Korea to $2.8 billion in New Delhi in India. ICAN said nuclear-armed states spent a combined $471 billion over the past 5 years, with all of them planning to retain their arsenals for decades more. Yay! More weapons, y'all! So you look at the chart here. Let me see if I can bring this down a little bit. So global nuclear. I was doing a George Bush there. Nuclear. It's all nuclear. nuclear. So their stockpile, Russia has 4,400, US has 3,700. They both have over 1,000 that they retired. So Russia technically has the most, but in these psychopaths' hands here in the US, that's
Do they have Social Security for the retired nukes?
Yeah, right. They have to wait. The nukes have to wait until they're 70 years old before they can retire. So I'm not quite sure how old these are. If they keep spending money on that, it's like the old nukes are like, wait a minute, Ash, my back hurts. So yeah, you saw the chart there. This exorbitant spending comes at a time when countries are significantly scaling back their investments in the global commons. ICANN said in a summary accompanying the report, whether reneging from climate change adaptation agreements or failing to pay their fair share to prevent the scourge of war through multilateral diplomacy, this overwhelming spending on nuclear weapons shows a willingness to research, develop, finance, and build tools to exterminate humanity instead of saving it. Yeah, that's there isn't really a better example of priorities to kill everybody than that. Oh, you want to be fed? No, that's not. Oh, you want nukes? Yeah, here you go. The report comes just a day after the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute warned that nuclear states were sidelining and walking away from nuclear disarmament commitments in favor of modernizing and enhancing their arsenals. The 9 nuclear-armed states are estimated to possess more than 12,000 warheads between them, with the vast majority held by U.S. and Russia. So more money for missile go boom boom. But if you want your kid to have fresh vegetables, what are you, a communist? What the hell's wrong with you? America, we need missiles.
America. Big missiles that shoot up into the sky.
You know, if I was a country that wasn't the United States and I didn't have nuclear weapons, I would be, as a leader of that country, I would be considering trying to get some. Because as the recipe goes, if you got nukes, nobody messes with you. Right? Apparently everybody hates North Korea, but you don't see us like little boats outside North Korea because they know.
You don't see them going poke, poke, poke.
They know where the mushroom clouds live. Yeah. And it'll be them as the mushroom clouds. So yeah, that and you're probably seeing that raise in some of the countries besides that, like, and who knows, maybe Iran gets one too. The former leader there was not, he put a fatwa on it. He said no nukes, and his son is like, hold my nuclear fission. But he hasn't said anything about it yet, but that could very well happen in the near future. Hey, Poppy. That's right. It's just like the Van Halen song. Everybody wants one. I want one too. Everybody wants one. How about you? And if that's not bad enough, guess what? The screw worm's coming. Get ready to get screwed.
Yeah.
Why that next hamburger is going to cost you. This lady here has something to say. The primary driver of inflation in the U.S. economy, the forever war in Iran, has not yet taken full effect. Now we found an entirely new driver. Last week, the flesh-eating parasite. I hope it's in burgers, please. You would eat some bugs. The flesh-eating parasite known as the New World screwworm. Like New World Order. Is that what really? Are they trying to make this as apocalyptic as possible? Was found in a calf in Texas. The second case was identified about 5 miles away shortly thereafter. A third case was found in a dog. Screwworm flies lay their eggs in the live tissue of warm-blooded animals, from livestock to pets to humans. These larvae screw into the animal's flesh, and while they are not very harmful to humans, and that the horrifying effects of maggots chewing into your skin are relatively easy to notice and address. Yeah, well, if you're sitting there letting somebody just eat on you like that, you're like, okay, you want to get out of here. They can kill a livestock host if not treated. In a widespread infestation, one of the last resorts would be mass culling, which would obviously have huge impacts on a diminished U.S. cattle herd. The total herd count already sits at a catastrophic 75-year low, in part because of the screwworm outbreak that broke past a fire break in Central America starting in 2023. The U.S.-Mexico border has for the past year been closed to live cattle auctions, affecting the feeder cattle that come in through Mexico to rebuild herds, but closing the border did not stop the flies from coming in. It should be a lesson.
Flies do not respect borders.
Right, because they can fly up and then they go over. And what are you going to be like?
Well, that's a job for ICE.
Yeah, with those old-timey bug cans, where they're...
Fine. You want to worry about invaders? Deal with the screwworm flies.
They'd probably find a way to screw that up too.
Indeed.
So low cattle volumes have sent the price of beef skyward to levels not seen since the Korean War, up between 20 and 35% in the past year. I don't think that's just the screwworm though. It's probably some other stuff. A screwworm outbreak would seriously aggravate that spike. In other words, you probably should have ordered your last hamburgers of the summer a week ago, even though we haven't. It's not even summer yet. An outbreak would dramatically impact ranchers who have been in a deep hole for the past decade from reduced stocks and more recently from drought, tariffs, imports of cattle pushed by Trump to lower the price. Idiot. A war in Iran that has spiked costs of fertilizer and fuel, and now the screwworm. The cattle producer in the U.S. has already been under extreme financial stress, says Joe Maxwell, president of Farm Action Fund and a farmer in Missouri, where he once served in the state legislature and as lieutenant governor. This is serious, the screwworm outbreak, but it's even more serious because of the financial position they were already under. So you got the screwworm, you got the Lone Star Tick, right? Which is sounds like some sort of indie band out of Austin.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other factors involved here, Uncle Warren. One is that some scientists are blaming climate change for the increase in these screwworms and these larvae, because without the deep freezes that can kill off eggs and all that and help to control the population, as the climate gets hotter, the winters get more mild, less of them die out. So the normal kind of the climate controls on this fly are not there. The other thing is that there was and I believe that there is still now that it's becoming a problem again, there was a project to have basically a sterilization program for these flies to keep them from reproducing so much. And Elon Musk's Doge came in and apparently put a halt to that. Now that there's talk about bringing this all back, but people were making fun of it. Oh, they're trying to sterilize flies, and isn't this a crazy little project? Well, actually, it was a very important project because there's a species here that is causing severe problems with our cattle and thus with our food supply. So yeah, this is what we're dealing with right now. I mean, if you thought the murder hornets were bad, we've now got screwworms.
So yeah, I forgot about the murder hornets. I'd love to see them in the mix now too. It's like, come on, you guys, fight it out with the screwworms and the Lone Star Ticks back there.
It would probably be better than the UFC fighting that they're planning to have at the 250th anniversary of the U.S. in D.C. I mean, they could actually get all of these insects to do a show.
Like the old flea circuses back in the day that it's like, hey, wait a minute, this is like the sea monkeys ripoff, right? I don't see nothing. Oh yeah, see, look at that one jumping around and stuff. Yeah, I know, right? It's very biblical, the plagues and the swarms of locusts, and the gnashing of teeth and all that good stuff. It seems like we're in end times, which if you're religious or not, you got to recognize that the world's kind of like kind of teetering on the edge there. So
it's time for a change. Yeah,
it is. And it's also time to change this thing to the catch of the day. See how the king of segue. And talking about Smeg's breath. I'm sorry, Pete Hegseth, and saying, hey, your religion don't belong here. In the military, we want some Christians and more Christians. And hey, give me some Christians. What's going on with this?
All right. Well, you've probably been. It's made quite a kerfuffle. Effectively, what has happened is that Pentagon Pete has decided he wants to reform and revitalize the chaplain corps. I recently saw a rather unhinged video of him trying to explain that he doesn't like what's happened to the chaplain corps, that they basically have become emotional support resources rather than actually leading people in the faith and setting an example, and they have a divine call to ministry. One of the things they're going to be doing is changing their insignia. They're not going to be wearing their rank. They're all officers in the military, but they are not going to wear their rank. Their insignia is going to be a faith symbol. And that's one of the things that he's doing. But what he's also doing, what he also has done, is he's ordered that a reclassification of different religious groups, and that when people are enter into the military service, they are asked to indicate their religious faith. And apparently, at one point, there were well over 200 different faiths that were listed, and he has scaled that down now to, I think, around 31. And I can show you all that. Here we go. Yeah. We can bring up some things later on. I'll explain what's going on here. And initially, one part of the kerfuffle, and that caused quite a thing, was that you had a list of various Christian denominations, and there was Christian, and then a hyphen, and then the name of the particular branch of Christianity, or perhaps a denomination, was listed right after that. One of the curious things that happened was that the Mormon Church, or the Church of Latter-day Saints, was listed on its own, did not have a Christian prefix in front of it. Now, among evangelical Christians in particular, but in general within world Christianity, Mormonism is seen as being outside of historic Christianity. There are some differences between Mormon doctrine and what is generally considered to be small o Orthodox Christianity. I make that distinction because I'm not speaking here of big O Orthodoxy, which is Eastern Orthodoxy, that particular branch of Christendom. I'm speaking here of churches that hold to a particular historic line of faith doctrine. Mormons have distinctives that are outside of that. I have nothing against Mormons personally. I'm just saying that they have been outside that. However, Mormons have been very eager to be considered Christian. And this was seen as greatly offensive to many people in the Mormon church. And there were several legislators out of Utah who became apoplectic and were blowing up X, criticizing this particular move. What got even weirder about this, and when you look at this, is they listed as Christian in Hegseth's new list Jehovah's Witnesses, who are considered to be outside of historic Christian small o orthodoxy. You had the Quakers, who themselves don't always consider themselves to be Christian. You also, and this is where it also gets a bit goofy here, is there are several churches in here. This has been actually revised. They no longer have the Christian. This is the revised list that has come up later. But they also have various churches in here that are traditionally non-combatants. That is to say that their members are going to be conscientious objectors. So you have the Brethren, you have the Quakers, you have the Jehovah's Witnesses. And the only thing I can think is that there are some military members that come from families. They were raised in these faiths, but they have decided to join the military. But it was a bit strange to see that. Hegseth has backed down, the Pentagon has backed down, and they put together the revised list, which is the one that you just shared, which has removed the Christian prefix to the individual listings. So that is what has happened here. And so he's backed down on that. The problem with this list is that it is extremely incomplete. And in my view, is not going to be terribly helpful to chaplains who are truly trying to serve a multi-faith service. When you have a multi-faith military, this is going to create bigger problems. Uncle Warren, if you could go, there's also one in there from 2017 that I've put in the rundown. Pull that up. And this is the one from 2017. You can see the difference there. And it will show you just how precise things were originally. And you can actually see that there were, just a whole lot of religions in there. For example, we had religions like heathenism, various neo-pagan faiths that were listed in there. And it was very, very specific about the different types of faiths that are there. If you can, there it is. And there has been a absolute shift from this. So if you look, you'll see the Protestant Episcopal Church. You'll see Independent Baptist Bible Mission. You will see the American Baptist, the Southern Baptist. You will see Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. It's a very comprehensive list. There's Wicca, different kinds of Wicca, and pagan, neo-pagan religions. So it's very comprehensive. And by streamlining this back, they've flattened this list. They've flattened this list so that chaplains who may not necessarily know the people, service members under their command or under their watch, may not know them. They may not be able to adequately provide them with chaplaincy services. For example, if we go back to the new list, we'll see Baptist. Well, there are dozens, if possibly hundreds, of different Baptist denominations out there, and many of them don't like each other. And so, for example, you've got the American Baptist Church that ordains women to all ministry roles. You have, and that also ordains people who are gay, lesbian, trans, and you have the Southern Baptists who do none of those things, and who are now making moves to restrict women's participation in ministry even further. Now, I consider these to be valid issues of theological dispute, but if you are a military chaplain, let's say you're a military chaplain, you don't know, you have somebody who says that they're Baptist, they are, and you yourself are not Baptist. Let's say you're Lutheran or whatnot, and you're not aware of, of what sect, what part of the Baptist faith this person is, and you're trying to get them help from a local clergy member, you're not necessarily going to know where to get them help. If they call up the local Baptist church, which is an American Baptist church, and they send over a woman minister to assist or support a Southern Baptist family, that's going to get really unpleasant very quickly. And vice versa. You have Lutheran churches that practice closed communion. So you have like Missouri Synod or Wisconsin Synod, they practice closed communion. You have to be a member of that particular synod. It's not good enough to be a Lutheran even. You have to be a member of that synod to take communion. And again, you have a chaplain who's a Methodist, and you've got some Lutherans there. They call somebody up. The Missouri Synod Lutheran service member may not be able to take communion from an ELCA Lutheran minister, or they bring in a Missouri Synod or recommend a Missouri Synod Lutheran pastor who comes in and who can't give communion to the ELCA member. So we've got a complete flattening here. They've eliminated any mention of neo-pagan religions, and Hegseth is aware of them when there was that particular when there was a kerfuffle about that Hegseth wanted to eliminate beards, facial hair from the military. And he said, well, if you want facial hair, join the special forces. He said things like that. He said that specifically that heathens and Norse pagans would not be allowed to have beards. So he's aware of this. And they've basically been eliminated as a group. They're not also, something that's very obvious here is that there has been no distinction between traditional African-American churches, like the African Methodist Episcopal Church or the Progressive Baptists or the National Baptist Convention. These are historical Black churches that are very ingrained in Black culture here in the United States. And there's no distinction made there. For these particular churches that emerged oftentimes because of racism within religion, but have their own distinct cultural worship and liturgical practices. So these are distinctions that are being flattened and removed for chaplains, and I think it's going to create problems for both service members and the chaplain corps itself. I'm concerned about this, and one thing I don't trust Hegseth at all, and he had a rather bellicose video when he was explaining these changes. I would really hate to see an increase in sectarian conflict. That's the last thing we need in this country right now, certainly not in the military. I also want to make it clear that they are saying that military members, service members can certainly continue to have their particular religious faith on their dog tags, but they're being classified officially under very broad categories. And that I think is going to be a real problem. And it goes against some of the foundational ideas of the U.S. is that people should be free to practice their religions as they see fit. Mm-hmm. You don't need to get permission in the U.S. to start a church. You just don't. Anybody can start a church. And the other people that have been left out of this are Native American spiritual practices. And again, they operate in many cases differently than, say, a Christian church or Judaism or Islam, but they're very integral to these communities. And that's being stripped out of here. And when you consider that Native Americans oftentimes serve at a disproportionately high rate in the military, that is also an issue. There's so much going on with this that I think it sounds like they're trying to simplify things. They're making things even more complicated. And one of the reasons was given that they gave for this policy is service members are confused when they have this list of religions. Well, my feeling is that if a person can't name their own religion or is confused by what their religion is, maybe they shouldn't be carrying a gun, but that's my take on that issue as well. I don't like where this is going. And Hegseth's decision to start meddling with the chaplain corps, particularly because he is a supporter of Douglas Wilson, the guy who would rather take the vote away from women, or most women at least, and who marries off pedophiles to young women. It's because he's now in national prominence because of Hegseth. I don't trust Hegseth's motivations on this one bit.
No, I don't either. It sounds like some personal thing with him. It could be like some of his advisors around here. I'm pretty sure he probably has his own spiritual advisors too that probably push some of that on too. I mean, I can't say that for 100%, but a lot of these cats do. I mean, Trump's got one. He's got a spiritual advisor,
Paula White, who is a woman, by the way, a woman pastor, which I think is hilarious. And she's married to the guy from the Keyboardist of Journey.
To Jonathan Cain?
Yes, you didn't know that? No, he and Neil Sean got into a huge fight about it many years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm probably going to do a deeper dive into this because there's something afoot here. Now, I will say that I do think that the various missteps with this list of 31 recognized faiths or identified faiths was probably put together by people who have no knowledge of the religious ecosystem in the US. A lot of their stuff just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It leaves out the United Church of Christ. It leaves out the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, which are part of the Sister Seven mainline Protestant denominations. It has the Church of Christ listed, but the thing of it is, Church of Christ is split off into various factions, including one that has musical instruments in their church service and another one that doesn't. There are major, major distinctions. Willie Bragg is talking about the Anglican Church in North America, which is a somewhat conservative splinter group from the Episcopal Church in the United States, and the Anglican Church in North America does not have a relationship to Canterbury. So it is, and they've got some great churches and some great writers and people who I actually happen to like, but they are distinct from the Episcopal Church in the USA. So, and then you've got the Presbyterians. Well, you've got the Presbyterian Church in the USA, which is right now having a showdown over whether clergy should be expected to be monogamous, versus like the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, who are as conservative as you can possibly get. This is a poorly put together list. I suspect it was some group of morons who know, and yes, I'm going to say morons, who know nothing about religion in this country. They put this list together without any forethought, and now they're having to walk this back, rewrite it. But I think in the end, by flattening all of this, we're running into we're going to have some problems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just seems like more bureaucratic nonsense at this point. It makes no sense. It's not serving a purpose other than to just piss off people who are religious and in the military. Other than that, I mean, that's it. It just seems like it's causing problems. And
well, they may not get the services that they need. The chaplain corps is important. And when you have a chaplain, you can't have a chaplain for every religion on every base. That's not going to happen. But the chaplain is responsible for getting help for those folks. They are responsible for, making sure that religious groups have access to whatever chaplain facilities that they have, even if that particular religious group is not the same as the chaplain's personal belief. It's just, this is, on one hand, I think it could be a bureaucratic mess. I agree with that. But I also do not trust Hegseth and his motivations and the people who he has whispering in his ear. And I think in the end, you have service members and their families who are going to suffer if they are unable to get the level of pastoral care that they need promptly when things go poorly. And that does happen in the military a lot.
And it's going to happen more if events that are happening now keep developing, that's for sure.
And the racism also is getting on my nerves. We can talk. I'm going to talk about this more, but at some other later date. But we need to move on. I know.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's move on to the recurring tide. And we've been talking about what's going on in Minnesota with ICE there, but also with these fraud allegations that's going on there as well. And of course, JD Vance has to put his little Muppet face into this too.
Why?
As Vance demands Justice Department probe of Minnesota officials as White House presses war on fraud. Yes, this probably has nothing to do with the midterms that are coming up and trying to, Democrats have a way of making themselves look bad on their own. They don't really need any more. JD Vance is pressing federal prosecutors to investigate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison over allegations they failed to stop widespread social services fraud, amplifying concerns the White House will use a new Justice Department division to target political rivals. Vance, who has been tapped to lead the Trump administration's anti-fraud efforts as he seeks to raise his political profile as a potential 2028 presidential candidate. Yeah, good luck with that. Cited in a letter to the Justice Department, a report from the Republican-led House Oversight Committee that alleges Waltz and Ellison were aware of pervasive abuse of government programs for years and let it flourish. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be asked those same questions themselves if Trumpy ever goes to trial. The Justice Department did immediately respond to questions yesterday about whether it would open an investigation. It was unclear what, if any, potential violations of federal law could support a probe into the Democratic Minnesota officials who have defended their efforts to combat fraud and have characterized a separate Justice Department investigation involving state leaders as politically motivated. Minnesota has long been under a microscope for staggering amounts of fraud in programs for children and other social services, with dozens of defendants charged under the administrations of Joe Biden and Trump. Vance's referral for an investigation into state leaders, however, marks an escalation in the Trump administration's stated war on fraud that officials have said would not be political or partisan. And then someone in the back went, bullshit. Bullshit. It's like, sir, you need a lozenge for your throat. Vance is seeking an investigation by a new Justice Department division that has drawn intense scrutiny over the potential for political influence. Given its close relationship with Trump's White House, the White House announced the division's formation in January and initially said its leader would answer directly to the president instead of the typical Justice Department command. It sounds like a henchman. Walt's spokesperson Teddy Chanda derided the House committee as nothing more than a joke that continues to rehash COVID-era fraud. Governor Waltz is glad to see fraudsters are going to prison. Chanda said in an email, if the committee is concerned about corruption, they should investigate why Trump continues to let fraudsters out of prison. And drug dealers, too. Don't forget, there was that guy down in Central America. I can't remember. Some president. Honduras. They let him loose. Was it Honduras? Yeah. Let him loose. He was a narco terrorist, but they let him loose because he's buds with old Trumpy. Trump has granted clemency to numerous defendants convicted of financial crimes, including a man sentenced to 50 years in prison for orchestrating a more than $200 million Medicare fraud scheme. You come on, come play with us. That's some bullshit. We're going to get you out. Ellison called the allegations unfounded and dismissed Vance's referral as a political stunt from an administration that uses the machinery of government to target its perceived opponents while extending leniency to those aligned with its interests. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's deeply troubling to see official powers and public resources diverted away from serving the people and instead aimed at pursuing political adversaries, Ellison said in a statement. That is not what government is for, and it diminishes public trust in our institutions. The House committee alleges that fraud warnings were elevated to the most senior levels of the Minnesota state government, and payments continued long after credible signs of fraud emerged. In his referral, Vance wrote that officials in Minnesota or anywhere else in the country must be held accountable if they facilitated fraud, prevented officials from stopping it, or retaliated against whistleblowers who tried to report it. Minnesota state officials are not above the law, Vance wrote on the tweeters, but apparently he and Trump are. The Trump administration has clashed repeatedly with Minnesota officials, not only about fraud, but also the massive federal immigration crackdown that swept across Minneapolis, St. Paul, and other communities and led to widespread protests, including a couple of deaths, murders. Let's call it what it is. So the Justice Department in January served grand jury subpoenas to Minnesota officials as part of an investigation into whether they obstructed or impeded federal law enforcement through public statements they made. The status of that investigation is unclear. The Trump administration has touted the creation of the National Fraud Enforcement Division, or NFED, as a crucial step in its efforts to prevent the misuse of taxpayer dollars by people that aren't him. The division's leader, Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald, is a veteran prosecutor who has vowed to pursue cases without fear or favor. Right. Don't hurt yourself winking there, boss. Critics, however, questioned the administration's motives behind the new division, given that fraud was already prosecuted by the agency's criminal division, which last year announced the largest coordinated takedown of healthcare fraud schemes in Justice Department history. So, this is kind of a wild thing, but it looks like as a Republican, he wants more government. Republicans don't like that.
I'm not one to blindly defend not-for-profits. The not-for-profits can hide a multitude of sins, including, obvious fraud, overcompensated administrators, situations where more money is going into buildings and administrators than it is to actually supporting the mission of that organization. That can be its own set of problems. But the flip side on that is, okay, we can also try to nitpick and harass these organizations such that they either they stop operating, or they end up having to bring in a lot of people to do compliance. And again, more of their money goes into ensuring compliance. So that is also a concern. And as people are pointing out here, it's very easy to pick and choose. And it's very easy to pick and choose which organizations you are going to go after. Are we going to go after, churches, for example, that oftentimes have various programs that they run, social service programs? People tend to keep their hands off of church finances. The IRS does not investigate churches that blatantly violate regulations about endorsing candidates or preaching electoral politics from the pulpit. It becomes very, very easy for the government to then go after churches where you don't like their purpose, you don't like their mission, or you don't like their leaders. And they can go poking around, and you have a not-for-profit that maybe doesn't have a lot of money. They may not be able to mount a defense. They may not be able to hire an accounting firm or lawyers, or more of their budget has to go to that and less money to their actual mission.
Yeah. And this is probably also a thing of this, like, where the Republicans are just saying, hey, see, Democrats are involved in fraud too. Remember that come November, wink, wink. And so that's why I think they're paying particular attention to what's going on in Minnesota. And the Republican pundits out there too, they've latched onto the talking points that this is something to hammer. And I'm not saying there isn't fraud there. There probably is. But if I were to guess, I would say it's probably not as fraudulent as they're making it out to be. They'll take something. A lot of times this is what happens. They'll take something that's bad and create this whole, like, oh, this is the end of the world kind of situation, where in reality there's a little nuance there has to be. But nuance doesn't sway people the way you want them to. Scaring the hell out of them, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of scaring the hell out of you, we were talking about oil prices earlier. So this is from unfilled gas tanks to fewer frills. Retailers see U.S. consumers rethink their spending, as we often do when financial screwing around is happening. So U.S. consumers haven't stopped spending money since the Iran war drove up fuel prices, but many shoppers are reassessing what they buy and where, according to company executives and retail analysts. The behavior changes observed so far are subtle, such as altered routines for buying gasoline and fewer visits to clothing and furniture stores. They also are uneven across the population. During recent earnings calls with analysts, executives from American mainstays like Walmart, McDonald's, and Dollar General cited overall shopper resilience, as well as noticeable cutbacks by lower income consumers. Well, yeah, everything's going through the roof. They can't afford that nonsense. But the new signs of strain cited by major retailers, as generous income tax refunds help shore up their sales, make some economists and analysts think they will see a wider retrenchment when the refunds are gone and consumers face the cumulative impact of more expensive gas and higher prices for food, clothing, insurance, and other goods and services. Trevor Chapman, a communications executive in West Hills, California, said that instead of going to a local independent gas station, he and his wife now plan their fuel stops around Costco stores with filling stations. The couple is also doing more online food shopping to avoid impulse buys, he said. Gas is a kind of catalyst, Chapman said. It trickles down into the entire budget. We're trying to keep everything as normal as possible, but it's starting to feel like it's adding up more and more. Well, before the U.S. and Israel launched the war, many consumers already were being more choosy with their discretionary purchases, fatigued by several years of stubborn inflation and tariffs on imported goods imposed last year. I guess that's the end of that. People, that's the thing. Especially poor people know how to be very they know how to get around this kind of stuff, but it's going to get to the point where even some of the get arounds that poor people have are not going to work either, and so they're gonna have to do some drastic stuff, like maybe riding a bicycle to commute for 20 miles. I mean, I've heard stories about that, where people just can't afford the gas, right? If they go, they're spending their paycheck on gas, it seems like, because of course a lot of these places aren't paying enough, so you have that thrown in the mix too. What do you think?
And I want to apologize. There's some kind of tractor in my backyard right now, and if it's making some noise, I'm doing my best to control it. We've talked about this, is that people are just cutting back in all these areas. And I think what people don't seem to get is when you talk about belt tightening and how important that is. As Chuck says, you can only frugal so much until you get unfrugaled. There's only so much you can cut back. There's not going to be anything there for you. There's not going to be any money left to pay for that increased energy bill for your home. There's not going to be the money enough for your kids' school supplies. What is expected this year? People are already starting back to school shopping in June. The kids just got out of school. And they're now starting in June so that they can spread out that spending, looking for the best deals and budget for all of that. And that's a concern. But you also have to consider, what about the local businesses? People, remember the whole avocado toast things. Oh, you kids wouldn't be broke if you weren't buying avocado toast. Whatever your opinion on that may be. And yes, we all have to budget. But what happens to local cafes and restaurants and coffee shops that sell the avocado toast and employ people? And that's going to be lost. That can be lost. And what happens when people are losing their employment? There are people who have to cut back. They can't hire their cleaning lady or their landscaper. What happens to that cleaning lady or landscaper is they keep on losing all of their clients. Landscaping is going on right outside right now. What happens when those folks don't have their clients and they lose, they lose their employment, they lose their budgets? You start to see the collapse of economies.
Yeah, you do, and especially in small areas like that too. You'll start to see that more and more, and like people who live in rural areas, it's getting to the point where sometimes ordering food now may be cheaper than going to get it themselves because of the gas costs too much or something like that. And when you consider the food deserts, people are actually figuring it out and realizing that it's going to cost them less to pay the premium for having delivery than it is to actually go there and get it themselves. Yeah. And okay. Yeah, that's what you do. You're looking at the cost of stuff, and it's like, well, if I'm going to pay this much for food anyway, I'm going to save my gas and have them deliver it out here. I'm just talking about like the rural areas. In the cities, it's different.
But even the delivery drivers themselves are getting screwed on the gas, so they are selecting the orders that have the biggest tips, and that means that people who can't afford to tip a lot may not get that delivery either because it's not worth it for the driver. they're not necessarily getting a fuel increase from the delivery services, who are, of course, trying to make money for their investors.
Yeah,
we're all running around fighting over scraps.
You're probably going to see that with the gig economy too, where people are going to see, oh, I got to drive all that way for a $3 thing. No, I'm not going to do that. You know, so a lot of your services, people who actually can afford the services, are probably going to be stuck, as a lot of these people are probably going to be like, look, I can't afford these gigs because it's going to cost me more money than I'm going to make. So it's what happens. You know, whenever the economy goes to poop like that, you just, you have to get very creative, and hopefully you can vote your way out of it, but I doubt that's going to happen. But speaking of just screwed up stuff, this story is terrible. Farmer donates land for a park. City sells it for data center development. $10 gift became $10 million for city government, with $30 million tax expected over the next decade. Yeah. You were going to say something?
I was going to say, when I saw this, I almost fell off my chair. This is just, yeah.
I wasn't surprised. It's just, I'm just like, all right. So back in 1999, 87 acres of land in Taylor, Texas was donated, a nominal fee, $10, to the city by a farmer with a condition in the deed that it would be used for community parkland. In 2025, the land was sold for $10 million to a data center developer who has won several legal battles against the nearby residents who are trying to stop the massive construction project, reports 404 Media. Now the disgruntled locals are planning to take their case to an appeals court. This is unbelievable. They don't want your data center there. That's the thing. It's like, we don't care. If we want a data center here, we're going to do it. So to introduce this case, let's go back to 1999 when the $10 deed was inked. For some background, 404 Media talked to longtime local Pamela Griffin, who used to play on the farmland and watch her children grow up and enjoy the same freedom. Griffin recalled that old farmer Mr. Bland, that's an unfortunate name, used to talk to her father from time to time. According to her, Bland once said to her dad, "I see the kids don't really have nowhere to play," he continued. "I'm thinking about giving this land for parkland because these kids need somewhere to play." The original 1999 deed has now been unearthed, and the farmer did indeed follow through with his words. Now let's make the following chain of events simple using a bullet point timeline. Yes, love some timelines. So pre-1999, a farmer's promise to his neighbors. July 7th of that year, Bland granted the land to the Texas Parks and Recreation Foundation, a public trust, for $10 on the condition it be used as a park. 2003, Texas Parks and Recreation Foundation granted the land to another nonprofit called the Williamson County Park Foundation. 1 month later, Williamson County Park Foundation gave the land to the city of Taylor. The city of Taylor sold the land to the Taylor Economic Development Corporation for $15,000. TEDC sold the land to data center developers Blueprint for $10 million. Wow. This is quite a tale, and there appears to be a lot at stake for parties on either side of the dispute. In summary, locals face a multitude of undesirable side effects coming from having a data center in their backyard. There's also the principle of the original deed being ignored, a big deal in Texas. Meanwhile, the council asserts that stopping this kind of development in the city zone it is situated is beyond its scope. And you want to go away there? There's a principle, a big deal. Okay, beyond scope, and the millions in tax raises will benefit residents. Griffin only found out about the planned 135,000 square foot data center on the land when local organizers called around the neighborhood to raise awareness last year. She didn't even know what a data center was at the time. Looking it up with her family, the idea of such a construction on your doorstep didn't appeal. Sorry, let me get rid of this thing. Yeah, and locals like Griffin became concerned about impacts to air, water, electricity, and noise, as they should. In correspondence with the city council, they've been assured that work will be done to minimize health risks to people living nearby. Wink, wink, wink. Mitigations like a barrier wall, landscaping, closed loop water cooling, and the developers building their own power substation were mentioned. This is just another classic case of like, they're going to have to go to court.
Yeah.
And some of these towns, like there's a town in Nevada we were talking about that is possibly going to lose their power because of these data centers.
Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. And more of that stuff is happening around the country, and more people are starting to stand up to them, thank goodness. Because they're realizing what these data centers really are. They're not jobs. They're just nuisances in the community that all the benefits go to not them. Basically how that works.
Well, and I hear you have this civically minded farmer who wanted to do the right thing, said, I have this land, I'm going to, deed it over for community use, for the use of the people. And this utter disrespect for those intentions. And if the community decided that they couldn't manage it, that's one thing. But there would have been ways to have, got that land to some kind of civic project that could have managed it. Or they could have said, we can't accept this very restrictive covenant that you want. We can't do that. We can say that we will use it for civic purposes if we are unable to develop the park. It could have been used for housing. There are all kinds of things that it could have possibly been used for, but they could have tried to keep it within the spirit of what that farmer wanted. And now we just see that it's been sold for a massive, massive profit. It's changed hands many times and going to this data center. It's so disrespectful.
Yeah. And to the credit of some of these towns that are fighting it, the city council is on board to fight it, but some of these city councils are like just seeing dollar signs, and then they're having these town meetings, and the people from the town are coming to these meetings and saying, no, we see what's on TV, we hear about what happens with these places, the loud noises, the high utility prices and whatnot, and then this promise to make this land a park for the kids. It just sounds so wholesome and good, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, here comes capitalism, let's buy it up and turn it into a nuisance instead of something that's actually going to profit the community in a civic way, something for the kids, right?
Something for the kids. Right. And again, if this area had decided that, hey, we don't have a real plan to be able to do that, we don't have the resources to develop this in the way that this farmer intended it, they could have stated that up front. And, there may have been a mistake here to accept the land under these restrictions. They could have said, okay, can we do something else? And at this point, it's been sold it's been passed over, sold multiple times, and now this.
Yeah.
And again, I think the farmer was trying to do the right thing. I'm going to give my private land that I right now don't have a use for, I'm giving it to the community. And no good deed ever goes unpunished, I guess.
Yeah, well, they say, well, we should let the private sector handle a lot of this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, the private sector did, and even the private sector gets screwed when their wishes aren't adhered to. Speaking of AI screwing around business, so we told you about Lindsey Graham winning his Republican primary. So, of course, I think he's going for his 5th term. But down in Texas, some shenanigans are going on. I know it's the Florida of the Southwest. I'll say that till I die. Trump-aligned PAC dropped 6 figures in Texas on AI brain rot ad putting Tallarico in a dress. This is the person here, James Tallarico, running for Senate in Texas. Republicans are once again using AI to attack U.S. Senate candidate James Tallarico. This time they're spending big to air an ad featuring the Democratic nominee for Texas in a dress singing a song about transgender children. It follows a previous video posted by the Senate GOP's official social media channels in March featuring an uncanny AI rendering of Tallarico reading what they described as extreme statements he'd previously made on Twitter, discussing his views on religion and support for the LGBTQ plus community. Now, a Trump-aligned dark money group known as Citizens for Sanity, yeah, right, pretty sure there's a lot of sanity there, is taking it even further. According to a report from the Daily Caller on Tuesday, the group has spent six figures on an ad campaign portraying the Texas state representative in a dress, singing a parody of My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music about trans kids. There he is right there. You can see the dress. Boys in white dresses with blue satin sashes, girls dosed with hormones until they grow mustaches, changing the gender of all your offspring. These are a few of my favorite things. Not really good lyric writing from somebody who's done parody music myself in the past. So I'm going to give that an F. And then Tallarico is shown belting out these horrible things. The ad references comments made by Tallarico in 2023, in which he celebrated the trans youth who had shown up, along with other activists at the Texas State Capitol, to hold a protest in opposition to Senate Bill 14, which sought to ban transition-related medical care for transgender minors, part of a wave of hundreds of pieces of legislation proposed across the U.S. attacking LGBTQ plus individuals. So speaking on a podcast, Tallarico said, I'm just going to say this because it's on my mind. The trans children who showed up yesterday at the state capitol, they shouldn't have to, but it was an inspiration to watch. So as Tallarico became the Democratic nominee in Texas, where he'll face off against Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton in November, official Republican channels have spliced the comments to portray Tallarico as a creep. One post in March from the Republican National Committee research account on X with 1.3 million views quotes the interaction dishonestly as follows. Something that you love that's not family or friends, Tallarico said trans children. The ad is in line with others put out by Citizens for Sanity in 2022, when it spent a staggering $93 million attacking Democrats in swing districts. There's more to it here. You can read the rest of this article here on our Substack. The link is down below there. But basically, this is kind of the same thing that happened to Thomas Massey in Kentucky when they ran these AI ads with him hand in hand with AOC and Ilhan Omar going into a hotel. These things, I knew AI was going to be used for some kind of deception like this. In it actually popping up in campaigns like this, I'm not surprised at all.
No, I'm not surprised at all either. And I've been saying this for a lot longer. I mean, I remember the first time I encountered Photoshop animations, and this was back in the 90s. In the early 90s, and I began to see when the internet was very new, and I began to see what they were able to do with photo editing. And I said, at some point, this is going to be indistinguishable, and it's going to wreak havoc for people. And the use of AI. You remember when Trumpy was doing the poop bombs, which was just so disgusting. And it's like, and this is an absolute, I mean, I know what dirty politics looks like, and this is just vile. But it's for a lot of people, they can't tell the difference.
Exactly.
And you're going to have a lot of voters out there who are not, who, yes, they're online. They might see something, a grandkid might show them something on their phone. They might see it, but they don't know how to see how legitimate this is. They don't know how to they don't know how to go to Reddit. They don't know or to Snopes or to the media. They just see this and they say, this guy is out there wearing a dress and singing songs about trans kids. He's a heterosexual man. I think he's married to a woman. I mean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's and I think Jackie says it best here. She said, this is scary It's going to ruin lives, and no one will be held accountable. That last part there, no one being held accountable for it. And if no one's held accountable for it now, that just means you're just going to keep seeing it over and over and over, to the point where TV ads, you're not even, this may actually affect television stations too, where TV ads are just like, nobody's going to believe them, so they're not even going to watch them. And if they do, they're just like, that's probably some AI business. Even if it's not. Even if it's legit stuff, they'll probably be like, that's probably some AI stuff, that's, and that's where we're headed. Like you said, there's a lot of people who aren't tech savvy and don't know a lot of how they can tell if something's off or something like that. These are just people who probably watch regular ass television every day and just like, oh, well, look at that doesn't appeal to me, I'm going to vote for the other person. So
yeah. And again, it also has a civic impact when people say, well, I saw a video, this is what I saw in video, and the other person turns around and said that was AI.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. And then people are going to be disagreeing on reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's already happening in the UFO or UAP community too. People taking legit videos of stuff, and people just don't believe it. They didn't believe it that much before, and now it's just they're saying, well, that's just AI. That's not a real thing. And there's been documented cases of real stuff happening, but that's a discussion for another day.
Also, GoStart and Rumble, ecumenical, representing a number of different Christian churches. You're probably referring to my little subtitle here, Ecumenical Enchantress. That is actually taken from the movie North Avenue Irregulars. I think it was a Disney film that came out. I want to say it was back in the late 70s, early 80s. Ruth Buzzy was a Presbyterian church administrator, and very funny, but she called she was a CB person. It was back in the day before people had cell phones, but they did have CB radios, and she was known as the Ecumenical Enchantress. So that's for a religiously based catch of the day. I thought it'd be fun to play around with that.
Not a lot of places where you're going to get a hot take on Ruth Buzzy.
She was awesome.
Was she wearing the hairnet too, like she did?
No, she wore a hat, I seem to believe, but she was like a very serious administrator in the Presbyterian Church. If you haven't ever seen the North Avenue Irregulars, actually, I'd like to see it again. It was a very funny film, in my opinion.
Well, something that's not funny is this war that's going on.
It's not funny at all.
It's definitely not funny to the Iranians, that's for sure. So we'll give you an update of what's going on here. The on again, off again, on again, love-hate relationship. Tehran launches regional counterattack on Washington's assets after new U.S. strikes. So basically, this will probably tell you in here, but I'll kind of ballpark it for you. It's they shot down, Iran shot down a helicopter, and Trumpy responded. So Iran announced on its latest retaliatory missile and drone operations launched against U.S. military assets in the Gulf and Jordan following Washington's newest strikes on the Islamic Republic. Washington struck Iran in response to what it claimed was the downing of a U.S. helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. In response to the aggression of the U.S. terrorist army in areas in the south of the country under the false pretext of the downing of their helicopter, some U.S. bases in the region were targeted by a powerful attack. The Iranian military announced today, Wednesday, the criminal U.S. Army must know that if it repeats aggression against the Islamic Republic, more severe and widespread attacks will be carried out against the bank of targets set in the region, it added. The IRGC, which took part in the operations alongside the Iranian army, said 4 important targets were destroyed, including F-35 hangars and a command and control center in the Muwafaq, what the fuck? Salty Air Base in Jordan, Muwafaq. The IRGC said its naval forces hit 21 targets across the region and added that it downed a U.S. MQ-9 drone over the city of Jam in Iran's Bushehr province. Oh, I'll live in Jam City. That sounds like a rockin' place. It's not Funky Town, but is close. There were overnight reports of strikes targeting Kuwait as well, although they have not been confirmed or announced. Iran's foreign ministry released a statement condemning Washington's savage attacks on areas in the country's south. Iran, in exercising the inherent right of legitimate self-defense, delivered several severe strikes against U.S. bases and assets in the region. The statement added, calling on all countries of the region to, quote, prevent any use by the terrorist U.S. military and the Zionist regime of their territory and facilities for planning, organizing, executing, and supporting aggressive actions against Iran. Tehran will not hesitate in responding to U.S. attacks originating from bases in the region. The U.S. strikes hit Iran early on Wednesday. One targeted critical civilian infrastructure along Iran's southern coastline, destroying 2 primary water storage tanks in the Bamani area of Sirak country in Hormozgan province, according to the IRIB. According to the CEO of Hormozgan province's water and wastewater company, the U.S. hit a 500 cubic meter tank and a 2,000 cubic meter tank, which both play a key role in supplying drinking water. And it goes on here as to specific targets and stuff. So it seems like the kid that yelled car and all the kids got off the street. Now the car drove by and it's like, game on. We're back to fighting. And one of the things that had happened in particular for the first time is when Israel was attacking southern Lebanon. Iran joined in attacking Israel, whereas they've never done that kind of warfare before, where they actually initialized an attack not in response to them. And so that's what kind of started this whole new round of fighting that's going on over there. So who knows how long it'll last.
Indeed.
And Pakistan has been involved in the quote unquote peace negotiations, which is kind of laughable at this point. But Pakistan says Israel derailed U.S.-Iran peace deal described as inches away. Diplomatic efforts to finalize a peace agreement between the U.S. and Iran ran into significant delays due to Israeli violations across West Asia. Pakistani government mediators revealed to Anadolu agency on Tuesday. Trump told reporters in New York Monday that a settlement could be reached in 2 or 3 days, yet Pakistani mediators say that such an immediate breakthrough is unlikely. And if Trump's saying it, it's definitely unlikely. While Trump continues to maintain that a peace deal is close at hand, officials in Islamabad stress that the situation is complex and has entered a sensitive phase due to persistent Israeli military aggression in southern Lebanon. See, they were supposed to have a ceasefire there, but apparently Israel says, cease what? I heard they had one of those horns sticking out of their ear, like, hey, I can't hear you. What? Peace? What? According to sources close to the mediation, the two nations were inches away from concluding a temporary truce late last month, only for the momentum to be derailed by the large-scale Israeli incursion and the annexation of Lebanese territory. Although a temporary ceasefire in Lebanon was established on April 17th and subsequently extended until early July, Israel has maintained daily violations, including airstrikes and ground incursions, which is not unusual because they do not abide by ceasefires. Pakistani officials have informed Washington that Israel's action in both Lebanon and Gaza are the primary obstacle to reaching a final end to the war. The Iranian leadership has reiterated through diplomatic channels that it will not return to the negotiating table while Israeli strikes persist. Last week, Pakistani Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi traveled to Tehran for the 4th time since February 28th to deliver a special message to Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei from the Pakistani Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir. They're killing me with these names. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Right.
Whew. Good thing I've read some of these before in the past.
Yeah.
Pakistan, alongside regional partners such as Qatar, is currently attempting to convince Trump to apply maximum pressure on Israel to halt its offensives.
Imagine that.
Yeah, Islamabad has reported receiving a positive response from the White House regarding the situation in Lebanon, despite the lack of an immediate cessation of attacks. So Pakistani sources told Anadolu agency that they anticipate a breakthrough in efforts to stop the Israeli military attacks in a few days. Yeah, good luck with that. So yeah, and this goes on with more stuff. So yeah, think what you will about Israel, but they have been the thorn in the side of peace in this whole thing recently. Obviously, them in the U.S. were the ones who started this whole mess, and now it's what the kids like to call a quagmire going on over there. And by the kids, I mean people who have seen this kind of stuff before in various theaters of war and bullshit.
Indeed. And the difficulty with these arrangements and these attempts at negotiation is they require good faith, and I'm not seeing that happening here.
No.
Yeah, that and the fact that we've got an alliance between the U.S. and Israel that is certainly not serving the U.S. except to maybe prop up certain politicians. And people I don't think people are coming to the table in good faith in this case.
No, there's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes. Everybody has their own motivations, their own agendas, and that sort of thing. And people say, well, why doesn't Iran just surrender? It's like they're not going to surrender. They've been preparing for this for decades. They knew this day would come that somebody was going to attack them. If it wasn't with being having their monies, they're like their funds frozen. I think Iran's funds have been frozen, their bank accounts frozen, that sort of thing. And yet here they are. they're still around. They're not going anywhere. So, yeah. And for Pakistan to say that is kind of interesting too, that, hey, Pakistan, who you think's messing things up? Israel. Shh, don't tell him. Okay. Tell everybody. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And, the more this goes on, and Trump's making money off of this war too. So as long as he's in office, this war is probably going to keep going on. So let's get to the press pool. Put on your waders. We're going in to the press pool. And if you thought CBS was scary with Barry Weiss, guess what?
Yeah.
There's more. CBS News boss Barry Weiss poised to oversee CNN editorial operations. I thought she was already doing that. Seems like it. CBS News boss Barry Weiss is likely to gain editorial oversight of CNN if and when Paramount Skydance's acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery is approved, according to a report. Paramount executives are said to have held preliminary discussions with several candidates who would come in and run the business side operations next to Weiss while she continues to oversee editorial. The company is considering several big names, including current CNN CEO Mark Thompson, NBC Universal News Group Chairman Cesar Condi, and former NBC News chief Noah Oppenheim, Axios reporter. That's Barry Weiss right there. Ben Sherwood, currently CEO of Daily Beast, and former CBS News president David Rhodes are also under consideration, according to the report. The search implies that once the merger goes through, Weiss will also be in charge of CNN's editorial operations. You have been warned if you watch CNN. A CNN spokesperson declined to comment. The Post has sought comment from Oppenheim, Sherwood, and NBC News. The spokesperson for Rhodes declined to comment. All five candidates have extensive experience running large news organizations, a contrast with Weiss, whose background is in print and digital journalism rather than television news management. Under the current organizational chart, Tom Sabrowski is president of CBS News. He reports to Paramount Television chief George Cheeks, while Weiss reports directly to Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison. Last month, Puck News reported that Paramount executives began informal discussions about scaling back Weiss's role and bringing in a more experienced hand to manage the business side of both CBS News and CNN. Trouble in paradise. According to Puck, the executive would be brought in to allow Weiss to focus on scaling the company's digital operations. A Paramount spokesperson denied the report. According to Axios, Ellison couldn't be more pleased with Weiss's performance thus far. The Paramount brass love Barry Weiss, a source told the news site. She has the full confidence of David Ellison, who believes Barry has done a fantastic job as editor-in-chief. It's David Ellison right there. The source told Axios that Barry has been involved with identifying people she would partner with on the business side. The prospect of Weiss overseeing editorial operations across both CBS News and CNN would represent a remarkable expansion of her influence less than a year after she was brought in to run CBS News. Weiss was installed as CBS News editor-in-chief after Ellison's media company Skydance merged with Paramount last year. Since taking over the helm of the Tiffany Network's news division, however, Weiss has made changes that have ruffled feathers, nowhere more visibly than at 60 Minutes, the long-running television news magazine. Last month, Weiss fired the show's executive producer, Tanya Simon, and two correspondents, Sharon Alfonsi and Cecilia Vega. She then installed Nick Bilton, a tech reporter whose bylines appeared in Vanity Fair and the New York Times, as the show's new executive producer. Last week, Scott Pelley, the veteran 60 Minutes correspondent, was fired after he angrily confronted Bilton over the firings. The show's three remaining correspondents, Leslie Stahl, she's still there, John Wertheim, and Bill Whitaker, announced that they would remain with the program, though they were critical of management's handling of the firings. The Post saw a comment for CBS News and Paramount. Paramount Skydance proposed acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery has not yet closed, though both companies have said they expect the roughly $110 billion deal to be completed in the third quarter this year, pending regulatory approvals. The more business stuff there. So, if you wanted any kind of variety in your news coverage, that's over. If you're a fan of CBS and CNN, and if you are, God help you, because those are some awful outlets.
Indeed. We do have some good news on our end, Uncle Warren. We are now up to 97 subscribers to the
97.
channel. Yes,
Nice.
Chuck has been getting focused. I think John Kemper signed up, as well as the music omen person. I want to go back here and find that and give the music of omen. So there we go. We want to thank you very, very much. We're getting close. We're getting close, Uncle Warren. And as for this, the whole thing, just seeing that again, I was talking about the flattening of religious distinctions earlier. Now we have the flattening of media distinctions. And there's no good that comes of it.
No, if anything, this is just going to drive people to either pundits or more independent news sources. Hopefully the latter more so, but it seems like people tend to think that news pundits out there or political pundits are actual journalists, and it's a lot of times that's not the case. So,
and keep in mind that a lot of independent journalists do not have the resources that the corporate the corporate media does. And again, there are excellent journalists working even for the biggest corporate media groups. And I'm not talking about the individual journalists here. But independent journalists often do their best, but there's a lot that is often lacking. They don't have the kind of supports that a person working in a larger organization does. So there's a big trade-off here, and it's not a healthy ecosystem.
No, not at all. And AI could be messing with that as well.
Indeed.
As FCC's trustee warns that AI could be used to target towers. So far beyond job security and trust fears, AI could pose another threat to radio broadcasters, per FCC Commissioner Olivia Trusty. Trusty warned that AI tools are being used to mine public FCC filings to identify and specifically target communications infrastructure. The This is the only infrastructure they're tackling, by the way. Is the copper theft is the gateway, Trustee said at the 4th National Summit on Protecting Critical Communications Infrastructure in Philadelphia, the on-ramp to something much more serious. Between June 2024 and June last year, nearly 16,000 incidents of theft and vandalism targeted U.S. communications infrastructure, disrupting service for approximately 10 million customers. In the first half of 2025 alone, there were 9,770 reported incidents, nearly double the prior 6 months. More than half of copper theft incidents are concentrated in California and Texas, but Trustee pushed back on any regional reading. In fact, rural America bears disproportionate exposure. This is a nationwide crisis that impacts every state and every American in some form, she said. As for the AI angle, Trustee outlined 4 threat vectors targeting optimization, in which AI mines publicly available data, including FCC filings, to identify high-value network nodes and pinpoint where a single attack causes maximum disruption. Operational scaling, which lowers the barrier to coordinating simultaneous multi-site attacks. Evasion, helping attackers analyze and avoid detection patterns, and what she called the dark web ecosystem, where AI tools and marketplace access together lower the barrier to entry for organized attacks. We're not seeing widespread confirmed misuse of AI in domestic infrastructure vandalism cases yet, she said, but the trajectory and potential for harm is clear. Trust called, and I guess that's supposed to be Trustee called bad daily headlines. Trustee called on Congress to pass H.R. 2784, the Stopping the Theft and Destruction of Broadband Act, which would extend federal criminal protections to private communication networks delivered by wire or radio. Whether traditional broadcast infrastructure falls clearly within the bill's scope remains an open question, but its broader aim is to close the gap in federal law that currently protects government-operated systems far more robustly than privately owned networks. Currently, 28 states classify communications infrastructure attacks as felonies. Trustee noted that 22 have not. A gap, she said, bad actors are actively exploiting. Yeah. And it's very much a sign of the times when people are stealing copper, and they're trying to find it all different places.
Yeah, and they're often mentioned that it was in Texas and California. There's a lot of rural areas. There's a big states, and they've got a lot of land. And there's a lot of rural areas that could be particularly targeted. They don't have the level of security that you would have, say, in an urban center for a broadcasting establishment. So this is, it all sounds very technical, but these are very real risks, and communications infrastructures are so critical. And people want to steal the copper wire, and that could bring down a local station. They could absolutely do that. And again, in a rural area, you don't have a lot of choices, and that station is precious, and that could be happening. But there's also the disruption of signals. If they know, for example, that this station maybe doesn't have anybody there at night, they have an engineer that might be on call, but there's nobody there. There's no overnight DJ. They're voice tracking or whatnot, or they've got some stuff running on a TV station. They can interfere with that, and the level of panic that can ensue when somebody with an agenda, whether they're just doing it for the lulz or whether they are working for a subversive government or an organization that wants to cause terror, they could interfere with broadcasts. And if people are relying on legacy media for authoritative reporting and saying, okay, well, I'm seeing it on the internet, I need to go turn on my radio or my television to see what's actually happening locally, and you see a broadcast that could be AI generated, or it could be that they've taken over the screen or just using text, that could be a real problem when people can't verify anything.
That's probably part of the plan.
I would guess so.
Treat them up. What that's treat them like mushrooms. Keep them in the dark and feed them bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I love mushrooms. I love them. They're so tasty.
You like what? Muffins?
Mushrooms. Yeah.
Oh,
They're tasty.
mushrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are really fun too.
Yeah.
What's not fun is what was this guy's name? Dan, was his name Gregory Bovino? You remember this guy from
This
Minnesota?
guy.
This the guy who's not doing the Nazi cosplay. Yeah. So
very weird. Very
nice,
strange person.
Nice intro to the clownfish school. Yeah. So apparently you're going to be seeing him again, maybe him and his McElroy haircut. What is it? McElroy? Was that the guy's name? I don't even know. I'm not hip. Bovino launches exploratory committee for a presidential campaign with pledge to deport 100 million people. Which 100 million people? You'll just have to find out.
And what's going to happen to our Social Security then?
We'll get more. No, they'll still find a way to screw us. Yeah. They always do. Fresh off his appearance at a fascist conference in Portugal, I guess he's got to keep it in practice. Focused on remigration, Trump's ex-border patrol commander Gregory Bovino has teased a run for U.S. president in 2028, centered around his fantasy of deporting 100 million people from the U.S. It is his fantasy. Amid public backlash following the killing of 2 U.S. citizens by his federal agents in Minneapolis, Bovino was kicked from the helm of Trump's mass deportation crusade in January and sent into early retirement. But as he later discussed with the New York Times, he departed with a sense of unfinished business, that being the 100 million people that he wants to deport, unfulfilled that he could not exact what was described as a master plan to purge a third of the country. As News Nation reported on Monday, Bovino is not one to give up on dreams easily. The 30-year Border Patrol veteran told the network that he was launching an exploratory committee for a White House run in 2028 and plan to move ahead with a formal campaign if it all comes together. The website for his committee, bovino2028.com, which features an image of Bovino in his signature SS-style trench coat, flanked by the phrase House Bovino, men fight back, gives a sense of the campaign he seeks to run. There it is.
The spice must flow freely.
House Bovino. Yeah, he does. He looks like he should be on Geedy Prime with the Harkonnens there. Nerd reference.
Very much so.
That's fine. There he is right there. He looks very SS-ish. Even this little stuff here, the lightning bolt things, whatever the hell he's holding there. The website describes a future President Bovino leading the U.S. with a warrior mindset, quelling the foreign hordes that have subsumed our nation's cities and creating a department of youth masculinity. Yeah, that doesn't sound creepy. To turn young men into warriors for freedom, and calls for the reestablishment of Elon Musk's failed Department of Government Efficiency. He wants to bring back Doge. His website also does not shy away from acknowledging his role in a conference in late May where he appeared alongside representatives of the global far right, as Charles R. Davis described last month for The Redoubt. The Remigration Summit 2026, so-called, was held May 30th at the Salmana Residence Hotel just south of Porto, Portugal, and its organizers were not subtle. Weimar conditions require Weimar solutions. Yikes, argues Afonso Goncalves. These names. Chief organizer of the event. He's the founder of the far-right group Reconquista, so named for the mass expulsion of Muslims from the Iberian Peninsula. That's who Bovino was photographed standing next to after he landed in Europe. Martin Sellner, an extremist from Austria, is best known for pushing the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that Jewish elites are seeking to exterminate the white race via mass migration. That has motivated mass shooters from Pennsylvania to New Zealand. He was the other man standing next to Bovino. Other speakers included a Belgian fascist convicted of Holocaust denial and the founder of a Swiss neo-Nazi group called Young Tat, who is quite open about his fondness for National Socialism. Yeah, that doesn't sound Nazi-ish at all. Bovino's not looking to hide his affiliations with prominent neo-Nazis. The site prominently features a photo of himself with Sellner, who at a previous summit outlined a plan for the forced expulsion of non-assimilated citizens of immigrant backgrounds from Germany. There's more here. you basically get the gist. 2028 should be a wild one anyway. Who knows who's going to get that Republican nomination? I bet he ends up running independent and gets about like 5 votes from his friends, if he has any friends, which I doubt highly. Yeah. So Bovino trying to say, hey, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here. Come on, y'all like Nazis, right? Come on, y'all pull for Ukraine. Yeah, pretty wild. What do you think?
Boy, you wish that they would. No, I mean, it's too much to wish for it. It's you're setting yourself up for severe disappointment. The failure to vet any of this crap before he even got into his position that he held. I mean, this guy he's not trying to hide it. When I saw him in that ridiculous uniform, I'm like, what the Third Reich is this?
It wasn't the Third Reich.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you have to hand it to that particular segment. They had the aesthetics down, and I think that's what it made it so appealing to many people. It's disgusting, but they dressed it up okay, and I think that Bovino, again, this man was a disgrace, never should have happened, but here we are.
Yeah, and this wasn't just a Trump creation either. He's been with the Border Patrol for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, he's been through a few administrations that seem to be okay with him acting a little Nazi-ish. Yeah, the little Zig Heil going on. So this one here, never trust Olive Garden anyway. Just saying. I don't hate on them, but I'm just saying they're not as good as they used to be. Man charged in forced marriage satanic ritual after police respond to Olive Garden. Yes, when I think of evil incarnate, I think of never-ending breadsticks. A man was accused of holding a woman against her will and forcing her into a marriage. A main man, not my main man. My main man wouldn't do that. But a main man is facing multiple charges after police in New Hampshire alleged he held a woman against her will, forced her into a marriage, and injured her during what investigators described as a satanic ritual. According to court documents, Newington police were called to an Olive Garden restaurant Saturday morning after Pennsylvania State Police received a report from a woman who was tracking her daughter's cell phone. Investigators allege officers found the woman after she ran out of the restaurant and approached police, telling them she wanted to file an emergency restraining order against Daniel Ouellet. Is that like Goulet?
Goulet. Daniel Ouellet.
Quick, me, you stay in contest. You win. You always do, Goulet. Court documents state officers observed cigarette burns on her legs. Police allege Ouellet forced the victim to marry him and had threatened her with a firearm. According to court records, the victim told investigators Ouellet pointed a gun at her while she was driving Friday and claimed a religious cult was following them. Hey, it happens. The documents further allege that Saturday morning, Ouellet grabbed the woman's arm and cut her hand as part of a satanic ritual in Kittery, Maine. That's what they do in Maine. Investigators told WMUR they found a satanic Bible, a sweatshirt, and a bag inside Ouellet's vehicle. In court, Ouellet denied the allegations. If you talk to anybody that knows me, I'm not a physical man, Ouellet told WMUR. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I guess that's what he's saying. Addressing allegations that he forced the woman into a marriage, Ouellet told WMUR, forcing her into marriage, that's completely against my religious belief. I totally believe in free will. Prosecutors told the court that Ouellet has a criminal record that includes previous domestic violence and driving while intoxicated charges. Ouellet also questioned the accusations against him, telling WMUR, I just don't feel that was completely her statement. I believe the charges were erroneous. The case remains under investigation.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to Olive Garden.
So it was a commenter on this story said, I just wanted to enjoy my endless salad.
I know, right?
And then they get disturbed by all this.
They do endless everything there, and I guess there's endless drama there too when you
clearly
count the old Olive Garden.
I mean,
there.
actually, it's a terrible situation, but by gum, the stories that show up these days.
Yeah, it's there, and yeah, Idiocracy, the movie, is more and more becoming a documentary of recent times, not 500 years into the future. Finally, today we have some fun stuff. Do you ever play foosball when you were a kid? Or
I did. It's fun. You don't see them as often, but they, used to see them a lot more. That was particularly prior to the video games. I mean, they, remember when, they started moving in the video games, and they used to have some things. They remember when you could play golf or baseball from your table, like you went to Ground Round or something like that. And they had one screen for the whole thing. You put some money in, and you had a controller at your table.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Used to play.
Yeah.
Then they had the old timey pinball, but then they started bringing in the video games, and a lot of the the foosball and things like that seem to be going away.
Yeah, those were your old school arcades, right? You may have like a pool table in there, foosball table, and pinball.
And people would also have foosball in their homes. They sometimes, if they had a finished basement.
I knew a couple.
Or
of
air hockey.
Those. Yeah. Oh, air hockey. All right.
Love me some air hockey. Yeah.
Well, world record in Canada as world's largest game of human foosball, played at Ontario. Let's see if I can play this here. You won't let me see. Look at this. These people, it's got music on it, but so they're coming in. There's the field. It looks like it's on a football field or some sort of soccer field. And they got them all roped off like that. And then they just, here they go. They drop the ball, and then they kick it. They can't move. Right. So they have to, sometimes they make it in there. Okay. So you get the feel there. There we go.
Gotta love the Canucks. I mean, they just, they're just having fun.
They have nice hats up there. They call them toques. I took a hat one there. I was there. No, I was never there. The Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation celebrated the upcoming FIFA World Cup by organizing the world's largest game of human foosball. Foosball is the devil. Sorry, that was from Happy Gilmore. The May 23rd event at Humber Polytechnic Lakeshore Campus West in Etobicoke involved 254 participants holding on to giant horizontal poles, giggity, and attempting to kick a soccer ball into an oversized goal. Soccer is about teamwork, energy, and shared experience, and a human foosball Guinness World Record attempt brings those elements to life in a fun and unforgettable way. Neil Lumsden, Ontario's Minister of Sport, told Guinness World Records the record-keeping organization confirmed the event qualified as the world's largest game of human foosball. Foosball is the devil. And then that donkey. Have you ever seen Happy Gilmore? Not Happy Gilmore, the Water Boy. Sorry, it was the Water Boy.
No.
The Water Boy. Yeah, it's stupid, but
that's Adam Sandler. I mean,
it's an Adam Sandler. And this looked kind of fun. So I guess you just stand there, right? You hold
and
on.
you had a little thing, and then I mean, I think it's great. It's kind of like when people were playing Quidditch from Harry Potter, and then you come up with this, and now they're doing human. I think it's a great idea.
If they want to do this right, though, they need to have somebody at the end of one of those pipes or whatever that pulls on it so that they move, because that's what you do in football. You pull the thing, and then your little players come down, and and then you do that whip where you just hit it real hard, and that thing just hits the back of the thing. And you hear this, this. Oh man, it's a great exclamation point on a goal too, and you're like, yeah, woo! I'm no good at foosball. That's just too much stuff going on with the hands and the looking for the ball and stuff. So are you professional? Do you play professional foosball?
I do not. I do not. I haven't played foosball in I don't know how long. Maybe next time we go up to Chicago, we find a place that has a foosball table, Uncle Warren, we can all play.
They have these great little arcades around here too. They have the one that's just nothing but pinball machines, and apparently it's just this giant complex. And then they have the same people have another complex that has all these arcade video games and stuff like that. And you pay one price and you can just play as much as you want. It's pretty cool.
I remember the Captain Fantastic Elton John Pinball Wizard pinball machine that they had back in the day, and there was Elton on there because he played the Pinball Wizard in the movie version of Tommy.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Going back to Journey. Journey had their own video. They had their own
Yeah.
pinball machine too, but they had a video game too, and it had their little heads. Right, it was like they took pictures of their heads, like they could turn this way, they could turn this way, or they could look ahead. And if you were Steve Smith, you're on this drum kit and you're going around shooting lasers and stuff. It's so bizarre. Wow. But in the local town, it was at this gas station, and the high score each week got like a gas station pizza. So I don't know if that was a prize.
I remember you put your initials in there.
Yeah.
I loved it. The high score, and like for like a day, even if it was just a day or something, but you got your initials in that high score, and that was
or you wrote ass or sex or something like that the proprietors probably didn't like, but whatever.
Or they put your name. They had it like dry. I remember this place called Just Games, I think, and they had dry erase boards. And if you got the high score, your name and your score got on that little dry erase.
What's up, Piss Doggy? That's awesome. Kiss had a pinball machine game too. Yeah, that was
man. Yeah, I think Kiss had a casket for a while too.
Pink Floyd had a pinball machine, but it was very slow, and you had to be on acid to play it correctly. And even then, it wasn't pinball. It was probably
on the
just
dark
a
side
box.
of the moon.
It was just a box of rocks and somebody on the side going ding 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 ding, and you're like, man, this is the greatest game ever.
You had to be comfortably numb to play it.
That's right. Shine on, you crazy diamond. Good stuff. So that's all the news that's fit to print for today. Good show. I enjoyed it.
And we got some new subscribers. We're 3 away from 100, Uncle Warren.
3 away. We need 3 more for the C note. So hook us up if you can like, share, and subscribe. If you're doing it live with us, or if you're watching this in the future, they have flying cars. We appreciate all the support from all our folks in this community. Yeah, we are.
You animals.
Stop it. We're all kitteny, John. We're like kittens around here. Stop it. Anything? Thank you, Poppy. Appreciate you. If you don't know Poppy is Pop, I always see Poppy in the Black Bear News. She's the mod over there.
We do appreciate coming.
And now you're a mod here too. So that's awesome. Anything else before we get out of here?
Don't have anything else to say. I want to, I appreciate everybody doing stuff. Do check out, if you haven't already, our Substack. That will get you updates, notifications. If, for example, YouTube decides to take down the channel or something, we can get in touch with you that way. It also has our show notes. So I'm putting that link right now into the comment sections. Please do, if you can. It's free. It will always be free. There will always be a free show notes for this show. You don't have to pay anything for it. But again, we do appreciate your support.
Yes.
And don't forget, wash your produce. Wash your fresh peaches, right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what Piss Doggy's saying. Wash your peaches.
Well, they're taking away all the water for the data centers. So we do have to be reminded.
Think clean thoughts. I'll be back Friday morning for morning extra and for the secret show Friday night, and then we'll be back here again noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack too. Be sure to check out Substack for all the show notes, because sometimes we don't read all the articles on there, and you may want a little bit more in there, so we have those available for you too. And also, don't forget our mutual aid folks down below there. There's links for them too. If you can't donate, if you can share out the links, that always helps as well too. Other than that, I'm going to say we Audi 5000 with a sunroof until next week. So thanks everybody. We appreciate you. And we'll see you on the flip side, as Master Blaster said in that cartoon in the 80s. So take care of yourselves, everybody.
Take care. Peace out.